Hi everybody, welcome to Kalinting Reads with me Dimas, where we talk about books in the horror genre or at least horror adjacent. Today I'm going to be reviewing a book called Thin Air by Michelle Paver. Like the subtitle says, it is a ghost story, particularly a haunting that befell 5 Englishmen in 1935 during their journey hiking the Kanchenjunga mountain in the Himalayas, the third highest mountain in the world. Now, what I love about reading books and watching movies is that they can take me to places that I can only dream of, or sometimes situations that I wouldn't want to experience. Now, this book provides just that. It really transported me to Nepal and to the unforgiving terrain of a beast of a mountain. And I'm so happy that I get to read this book during the pandemic because it lets my mind travel far and wide and lets me join in on the expedition and take in the view, the beauty, the chill, the camaraderie, the conflicts, the horror, and everything in between, all in the comfort of my own home. And I think it's obvious that I had a great time reading the book. Now I'm going to tell you why. So without further ado, here is my review of Thin Air. So, Thin Air by Michelle Paver is a part a man versus nature thriller and part a ghost story. It is set in 1935 where our main protagonist, a 34-year-old doctor named Stephen Pierce, arrived in Darjeeling, India after traveling from England to gather with 4 other Englishmen to try climbing the Kanchenjunga mountain, which stretches across Nepal and India. Now, at the start of the story, we see Stephen marveling at the view that surrounds him as he stands in the bungalow of a famous explorer located in the Himalayan ridge. Now, he is not part of the group originally. In fact, he is a last-minute replacement since the original medic cannot join in due to an injury. But we get the sense that Stephen really jumps at the chance to climb this mountain because he just wants to distract himself from a failed relationship. So off he goes on the expedition with 4 other more experienced mountaineers along with around 60 porters who consist of the natives of the area. The main members of the team consist of Stephen as the medic, Kits, his highly competitive older brother, Major Cotterell, the leader of the expedition, Gerard, who is in charge of reports and communications to and from the city, and McLellan, who is in charge of the porters and supplies. Now, early on in the story, we are informed that there has been a well-documented expedition to the same mountain almost 30 years prior. That expedition was led by a famous mountaineer named Sir Edmund Lisle. While Lisle and some of his crew survived, and Lisle himself wrote the accounts of the expedition that brought him fame, the expedition itself was engulfed in tragedy as 5 people died in the blizzard and avalanche. Clearly, climbing this mountain is very risky and dangerous, even more so for an experienced mountaineer. The interesting, or should I say alarming thing, is the new team which Stephen is a part of is actually trying to conquer the mountain by tracing the same steps and the same route as the one taken by the doomed expedition 30 years ago. Now, if only these characters have seen other ghost stories, they might decide not to follow the footsteps of a failed expedition. But of course, if they did that, then we wouldn't have a story. So, against warnings from not only the porters who understand the area, and interestingly, against harsh warning from a well-respected explorer who happens to be a part of Lisle expedition 30 years ago, the new explorers continue on with their journey. Now, it is here in this section during our character's journey up the mountain where the story feels very much like a slow burn man versus nature thriller. There's no supernatural or creepy stuff happening. The story just focuses on the character's camaraderie and interpersonal conflict and also the harshness of the environment. Now, the interpersonal conflict mainly stems from the dysfunctional sibling relationship between our main character Stephen and his older brother Kits. Now, this dude, Kits, to me is rather an unpleasant character. He is the type of person that sees himself as being the more successful one than his little brother. However, the minute his brother steps up his game or comes up with good ideas, he immediately feels threatened and subsequently tries to undermine Stephen's opinion. Now, the story makes it clear that Kitz worships Edmund Lyle, the late explorer that led the tragic expedition 30 years ago, because Kitz sees him as the ideal type of leader. It is not hard to see why Kitz relate to the late Edmund Lyle. They share similar unpleasant characteristics. They are both self-centered, like to be the center of attention, they like to take credit for other people's contributions, they are a bit of a chauvinist, and particularly for Lyle, he likes to bend the truth to increase his profile. It doesn't mean that our main character Stephen is an entirely pleasant character as well. In the beginning, he looks down on the natives and their beliefs and their customs. And this side of him really makes me not want to see him survive, really. However, these flawed characters create an interesting dynamic throughout the story, making it feel like there are things happening under the surface, when in fact, for a ghost story, not many creepy things are happening, at least in the beginning. But then, as they climb higher and spend night after night camping on the mountain, Stephen begins to experience strange things. He has the feeling that the group is being watched and followed by someone or something that has been hiding in the mountain. He hears footsteps on the snow outside of his tent, even though he knows that everybody is fast asleep. He hears voices that seem to call for him, or for anyone really, at night when everybody on his team is resting in their tents. Could his mind play tricks on him? Or is there really something sinister that follows them as they climb up the mountain? Was it supernatural things that killed 5 men in the Edmund Lyle expedition 30 years ago? By the time Stephen gets his answers, everything may be too late. Now, I enjoyed very much the amalgamation of survival thriller, dysfunctional family drama, and old-fashioned ghost story that this book has. I feel like they all attack all of the senses perfectly. I got the excitement, then helplessness and isolation from the part where the characters have to navigate the terrain of the mountain, and the depleting oxygen and the injuries or sickness that their team member suffered from. The relationship between Stephen and Kitz, on the other hand, gives the book the emotional core. The writer describes very well the dynamics of siblings. It might be that they don't like each other, but they are brothers, and they are caught in a messy tangle of love, hate, sometimes cruelty, and then guilt, and sometimes sympathy. By the end of the story, we see their evolution as characters, and we can see that there is still love there between them, even though their actions, especially in the beginning, suggest otherwise. Now, for the ghost story part, it does not come to the forefront until the last act of the story. But it doesn't feel like it's coming too late. It actually ties everything up perfectly. All of the interpersonal conflicts, secrets, and fight for survival all culminate in a pivotal scene that involves the supernatural, which is terrifying, suspenseful, and gasp-inducing as it comes suddenly. I remember feeling all of those things that I feel whenever I see or read a great scare in horror stories. I got the shivers, and I got really excited because it is the payoff that I have been waiting for. So yeah, I love this book. I think it is a must-read for anyone who likes classic, slow-burn ghost stories, but this time, it is not set in a gothic mansion or a haunted house. It is set on one of the highest mountains in the world, with its cliffs and edges hidden by the snow, which, even without the ghost and the supernatural, can lead people to their deaths. All in all, I give Thin Air by Michelle Paver a 5 out of 5 stars. It is a suspenseful and chilling survival thriller. It has an involving sibling drama at the core of it, and it has ghosts that appear at the perfect time that will send shivers down your spine. So that is my review of Thin Air by Michelle Paver. If you've read it, let me know what you think of it in the comment section down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again in the next book review video.